Hello again, good evening, another chilly evening, but what are we going to have a look at? We're going to have a little look at plastic welding, which can be a very handy little trick at times. And while we're doing that, of course, why not just subscribe, like and share? But let's see what we're going to do here. Okay, plastic welding. Now, essentially, it's melting plastic and sticking it together, but obviously doing it safely and don't burn yourself. But as an example, we'll use the nozzle of a silicone tube. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a nozzle like so, straight nozzle, and we're going to do a little bit of plastic welding and turn it into a 90-degree nozzle. And once we do that, I'll then show you another example of where this might have an even more important use. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to take our nozzle, we'll mark on it an approximation of the angle that we want to create. Okay. Around the 90 degrees, we'll then slice out a little bit of the plastic to allow for the fold and the hinging. So once we do that, we can see that the nozzle is beginning to come round to angle. Obviously, create angle to desired angle. Then, soldering iron. Hold our nozzle in the required position, and then gently start to melt the two edges of the plastic together. Now, you obviously want to be careful that you don't go right through, well, in this instance the nozzle, but whatever piece of plastic it is that you're working with. And again, just continue to do this the whole way around, not keeping the soldering iron or the heat in one place for too long, as you want to end up with a usable product and not something full of holes. You'll actually begin to feel the plastic moulding and welding as you do this. Now, so we've already got it together. Now the next thing we're going to do, we'll just pop it into the vise to hold it here a moment. So once we have our nozzle at that stage, or whatever the thing is, we'll use something like an old cable tie and effectively use this like a welding rod. So again, by melting it into the joint, we can then provide a bit of additional support for the original plastic. Provides a wee bit more rigidity and strength, and actually surprise you how strong this is. I think very often it can end up being stronger than the original article, but nonetheless, gently as you go. Smooth your welding rod, so to speak, into the joint and onto the two faces that we've been working with. And once we have that done, soldering iron down, and hi presto, we have got a jointed nozzle. And just for the purposes of demonstration, if we get our nozzle in place, again this just happens to be a tube of silicone, but obviously we'll then see our silicone bead coming out at the angle, no leaking, and as I say, an actual surprisingly strong joint. But obviously, you know, it's an application that can be used for many things. We commonly use this to turn a nozzle into inaccessible areas. You know, for example, window sills or round corners of any nature. Now, that's one aspect of this, and that's useful. But let me show you something else which might even be a wee bit more helpful and serious. Okay, now what we're looking at here is the heater matrix out of an old vehicle, and I would say the likelihood of being able to find one of these to replace would be slim. Now what happened was that we've got the inflow and outflow pipes coming through from the engine into the matrix. This spigot here held the bleed tube passing through the bulkhead into the engine. Now, whenever that was being removed, again, old plastic, quite cold, very brittle, and the spigot just broke off, completely sheared. Now, what that was done then, this was plastic welded back onto the housing itself. In exactly the same fashion it was just demonstrated, welding rod, as it were, from a piece of cable tie, and in this instance then there was a little bit of reinforcing put in place. Now I have to say this next little bit is tricky, doing it with just one hand, but essentially what you do is come up with a little piece of metal, fine paper clip, something of that nature. You bend it in a curve, you can make it an S shape, you know, whatever increases the strength of your join, but you then place it across your join and simply put your solder iron on the bit of metal and let the metal heat. And as the metal heats sufficiently, you will see that it starts to bury itself in the plastic. And you do that, you can then cover it over. You can even, once again, put your little bit of welding rod, stroke cable tie back in place, give it a little bit of additional cover. But the point being that if your metal is covering the join, your other piece of plastic being here, melted in, even curved round, you to give it a bit of extra grip, then you've made quite a rigid join. So again, when we translate that back to our spigot, so we've got a reinforcement in here, reinforcement in here, plastic welded round, cable tie welding rod applied, and then finally just a coating of now it's already waterproof, but this is just built-in braces, a coating of a waterproof sealant. So we have restored, if that's the right word, but we have certainly brought back to life an article which may well have been lost. So again, little tip, but I hope that's of interest, and as I said previously, be careful when you're doing this here, don't burn yourself, and as always, if it's been of any use at all, just be kind enough to subscribe, like and share. So thank you, and until next time, bye.